So, the last bit that we want to discuss about political parties is political party leadership positions that are set up in Congress. And the reason why this is important is because each party position, each party leadership position is selected specifically for the roles and responsibilities that they play for the party. And if you connect this to what we talked about earlier in terms of the responsibilities and the functions of the party, this makes more sense. So let's talk about, for example, if we talk about what it means to be the majority leader. So the majority leader is the party leader elected by the majority party in the House and the Senate. So the majority leader for the House, there is a majority leader. In the Senate, it is determined by whoever or whichever party is in power in that in that particular um, in that particular body, right? So the function of the majority leader is to set the agenda. The majority leader is the one who frames, develops, and pushes the agenda of the party in Congress. So right now, the majority leader is the leader of the Democratic Party in Congress, and that's Chuck Schumer, who is the senator from New York. Chuck Schumer is going to be the guy who is essentially the voice of the Democrats when it comes to Capitol Hill, and the guy who speaks on behalf of the party at that level. And he's going to be the one who frames everything when it comes to the Democratic agenda at that level. And for the House of Representatives, the majority leader is going to be Nancy Pelosi. She is the speaker on behalf of the Democratic Party because the Democrats are the majority party. So she is the one who is their representative. Now, if the Democrats are in charge of the House and the Republicans are in charge of the Senate, then the Democrats will have a majority leader or a majority person in charge for them, and the Republicans in the Senate, which was how it was for a while. So for a while, it was Nancy Pelosi, but for the Republicans in the Senate, it was Mitch McConnell. The minority leader is also someone who is going to have the same role, but it's whoever is the leader of essentially what we would call the opposition party, right? So their primary function is going to be the same as the majority leader, but for the other party. So for right now, the minority leader in the Senate is Mitch McConnell on behalf of the Republican Party, and the minority leader in the House is Kevin McCarthy. Both are Republicans because the Republican Party is right now the minority party in both the House and the Senate. But when you look at the roles of what it means to be the majority leader and the minority leader, here's what you have to understand. Both of these positions are elected positions. You are entrusted with this responsibility by members of the party within Congress. So in Congress, so say for example, you are a congressional representative from Oklahoma, or you are a senator from Florida, you vote on who's going to be the majority leader. You vote on who's going to be the leader of your party in the House of Representatives. In fact, Kevin McCarthy became the minority leader in the House just recently, just a few months ago. It was, something that was a big news story because there had been a lot of conflict within the Republican Party. There's been a lot of division within the Republican Party in recent months, and so there was a lot of controversy because Liz Cheney had been the minority leader, and there was a lot of division over her because she had been critical of Donald Trump, and a lot of Republicans felt that that was not the right thing to do, and so they threw their support behind Kevin McCarthy. And so now he is the minority leader. So this can be very politically driven, right? And because it's politically driven, that's going to be what helps to determine the agenda of the party. What you have to also understand is when we talk about how these leaders set the agenda for the party there on Capitol Hill and in Congress, it's also going to set the agenda for the next couple of years. It's going to set the agenda for what's to come, for the next presidential election. It's going to set the tone for politics, the platform for what's to come, right? So these people come with a tremendous amount of power, a tremendous amount of influence, right? So this is not something that you need to ignore. So, in addition to these majority and minority leaders, there are also minority and majority whips. A whip's responsibility is to maintain discipline in the party. It's their job to make sure that people are voting along party lines. It's to make sure that party members are doing what they are expected to do. So let's say, for example, there's a big vote coming up on, a Supreme Court justice, or there's a big vote coming up on an education bill or a budget bill. And they know it's going to be a close vote. They know it's going to be something that is going to be hotly debated, and you need to count on every single vote going your way. One of This is something that came up a lot during the Trump presidency, because especially in the Senate, they could not count on every Republican voting in support of the Trump agenda. This came up especially with the issue of healthcare. There was one specific event where they were trying to remove Obamacare, and they were trying to remove Obamacare without having any replacement for Obamacare. And because there was no replacement for Obamacare, John McCain, a Republican from Arizona, decided not to vote in support of the Trump plan. And because of that, of course, Donald Trump was very critical of John McCain and spoke against him a lot in criticism. But he did not support this. And of course, Republicans in the Senate were very disappointed. But this is something that happens quite a bit. This is a part of the responsibility of majority and minority whips, is to try and make sure that everybody in your party is voting the same way. It's to make sure that everybody is towing the line, so to speak, and to make sure that you have control over how the party is going and what the party is saying, especially in terms of messaging to the media. You want to make sure that everybody is sort of maintaining discipline and staying within the parameters of the party. The party is helping to stay within the restrictions of what it means to be a Republican and what it means to be a Democrat. Because the reality is that within a two-party system, you have to consider longevity, right? When you consider the history of parties in this country, what happens to the whips, to the Whigs, is the Whigs had no reason to exist. They stood for in opposition to Andrew Jackson, and that's why they fell apart. They had no purpose to existence. The Federalists fell apart. The Democratic Republicans fell apart. But the Democrats and the Republicans on their own have figured out a formula on how to exist for a long time, and they want to continue that. And this is part of the reason for why and how they do that.